About 2 months ago, I bought a van. Wow! And set off on a journey to convert it into a camper so that I can venture off and be on the road and see places I've never seen before, as well as see the people I care for who live in other places. About 1 month ago, I announced the purchase of the van on this channel, and since then I've gotten some comments from you guys asking how the progress has gone. Well, let me tell you, not good. I've been filming the entire process so far, and when I say process, I mean it was a process. In the course of about 60 days, the van has gone from this job site office looking setup to this gutted and empty husk representing my will to live. Now, I know it doesn't look like a lot has happened, but trust me, a lot has happened. It took a very surprising amount of time to reset this van as much as possible back to its original factory state so that I can build the camper from there. Now, could I have put more hours than I have into getting this conversion done? Yeah. Will I put more hours going into 2026? Oh, yeah. At this rate I'm going, this build is going to take a couple of years, and according to my self-set deadline, I have 4 to 5 months. If that doesn't make my heart drop through where the sun don't shine, then I'm not sure what will. So what exactly have I even gotten done so far? Well, like I said, this van was outfitted very professionally, I must say, to be a job site office van. It had a desk and chair bolted in, a custom floor permanently glued in, custom paneling lining the walls and ceiling, and behind all of that, there was a lot of fiberglass insulation. Finally, there was a quirky little HVAC unit in the back of the van I didn't realize was even there, and well, funny story about that thing later on in the video. All of this needed to go. As much as I would have loved to have all of this be reused for the camper build, none of it would really be useful to me, and so out it goes. I had to start with the most obvious thing, the desk and chair. Going into the teardown, I genuinely thought this was going to be the hardest thing to do, and boy, was I wrong. Just some pesky bolts holding everything down. I detached everything, found an inverter at the bottom of the desk, and realized I was going to have to get rid of this and deal with the electrical. Newsflash, I don't know how to do electrical. After calling my dad, I shakily detached the necessary cables and got all the big stuff out of there. Next up, my dad and I began removing the panels and began revealing that sweet, sweet pillow fluff from hell, as well as revealing that little HVAC unit in the back. We removed this front reinforced panel behind the driver's side seat, and that we do intend on reusing. Now, time for a pop quiz. See this flooring here? Guess how we removed it. Is it A, we hired professionals, B, we used specific tools to easily remove it, or C, we broke our backs and manually peeled this insanely sticky and glued on flooring from the plywood beneath it? You know what the answer is. This thing was stuck on there, but after getting first place in who can get the most hernias in a day, we got that puppy off. I stuck some plastic wrap onto the back of it so it wouldn't be all annoyingly sticky while I store it, because we're gonna use this top vinyl as a template for the new flooring when we're ready to put that in. Beneath the vinyl was this plywood flooring. In hindsight, I should have just left it in there and just had no insulation on the bottom of the van, but I was a man of no compromises at the time and was really dead set on getting some insulation below the subflooring so my buns would be nice and toasty while camping. So guess what we did next? We had to remove plywood that was not only screwed into the van, but you see that gray stuff oozing through the seams? That's liquid nails. It's underneath most of the plywood. This stuff is basically some of the strongest adhesive you can use, and it would consume the rest of my day. After the screws were out, it came down to brute force. I had hoped to save all this plywood and just reuse it, but after all the elbow grease we had to put into ripping it out, this tree is finally going to its eternal resting place. We pried and pulled and teared this stuff out until sunset, and finally it was out. Well, mostly. You can see there are a ton of splintered pieces that were still stubbornly stuck to the liquid nails, and later we would have to deal with it. Before continuing on with the floor though, I had to get the most daunting part over with. All those nights of me crying myself to sleep had come to an end, and I needed to face my fears. I taped up the front cabin so that no mess would enter it, and began diving into removing all this fiberglass insulation. If you aren't familiar with why fiberglass insulation is so terrifying to deal with, it's because it's just microscopic glass strands. It's great for insulation, but terrible for you as a person if you touch it, if you taste it, if you breathe it in. It microscopically cuts and tears into you and needs to be handled very carefully if you actually care about your health long term. So I put on the full kit and caboodle. This made the build go from fun to a hellscape nightmare, where I sweat like a pig in a plastic suit, barely able to breathe while I get forbidden cotton candy stuck in places where I won't describe here. My goggles had no ventilation, so there was just pools of sweat dripping down my goggles, basically blinding me, but I was determined. I also had to remove the ceiling paneling here. I had waited to remove that part because I knew once it was gone, the insulation in the ceiling would fall and go everywhere, especially getting up in the front cab, where it would be an insane pain to clean out. So here, while half blind from my own salty perspiration, I was desperately trying to find the screws keeping these goddamn panels attached. And at the end, I realized my screwdriver was literally just too big to fit in where I needed to unscrew the last bits. So I desperately just punched the wood out of the screws. And you know what? It worked. I'm not gonna be able to use the wood again, but my God, it did work. I'm just editing this right now. This is so funny. Oh my God, you can tell how desperate I am. Oh my God. I'm giving it my all right now. I'm giving it my all. You can tell. You can tell how over it I was. Oh my God, dude. Oh. My abs are so sore. Okay, I gotta keep editing this thing. Oh my God. That was so funny. Wow. I got the rest of the big chunks of the insulation out, and boom, we were one step closer to me waking up without being in a puddle of my own cold sweat. I decided at this point to do an update video, and wow, past me was really in the thick of it. Wow, that was demoralizing. Oh my God. I don't even know what to say. I mean, I bought all that gear and everything, and I geared up to make sure that I wouldn't get any insulation on me, but wow. I mean, at first it worked so well. I was so sealed up that it was just dripping sweat. I was just like, I was slippery inside of that suit. I mean, my goggles were fogging up. They weren't breathing. And I sealed them with duct tape so that no insulation would get into the goggles and irritate my eyes. And I guess that worked. And then I couldn't take those top panels off. That was a mess. They were screwed in so many hidden areas. I couldn't find the screws. And then at the very end, right above the top here, where the final part they were secured at, I couldn't get in there and unscrew it because I didn't have a screwdriver short enough with me. And so I just started punching it to punch the wood loose from the screws, and it worked. But I slipped and gave myself a little boo-boo here. And like, oh God, and I can feel a little bit of insulation in my lungs because after I finished taking everything out, I took the thing off, but then I got back in the van and I breathed some of it in. But even before that, I started taking the insulation off, and the insulation in some parts wasn't even glued. Like whoever attached the insulation sprayed it in, like did a spray adhesive or something, and some of it wasn't attached, but most of it was glued in. So now there's just this thin layer of insulation. And so while technically I'm one step closer, it feels morally like I just took 10 steps back, because I'm now realizing how much more work this is actually going to be to get rid of all this insulation than I thought. I was hoping I could just pick up the things and remove it, but I can't. So, and I still got insulation on my clothing. Even after all that, I took it all off and I still got insulation on. So Definitely hitting a new low right now. I'm just gonna hope that future me gets to enjoy the result and that I follow through. I'm gonna follow through, so future me, you better enjoy this, bro, because right now I'm hating this. This sucking donkey. All right, update video done. Oh, well, pass me. Thank you for the kind words. I'm delighted to tell you it's still been brutal. But now, future me, I hope you enjoy this because I'm still putting in the work. Next session, we tackled the ceiling and got that cleaned up. That part killed my shoulders. I straight up got a migraine from how sore my shoulders and neck were from the elbow grease put into the ceiling here. Maybe that's just a statement on how out of shape I am. Here's the issue. The van may look cleaner, but it was actually more likely that I got fiberglass on myself than ever before. With the big chunks, the fiberglass was mostly self-contained. It may be hard to see though, there was a ton of fiberglass just dangling loosely where the adhesive that was used to attach it was still there. So I went and got a ton of adhesive removing spray, got some new masks that could actually breathe so that I could see what I was doing, and my dad and I got to removing the last of the stubborn fiberglass. First, we passed it over the whole van with shop vacs to suck up and remove as much of the lingering big stuff as we could. Then, as the adhesive remover set, we scraped as much of it off with a plastic scraper as to not scratch the van more than we already have, and finished it up. While we didn't perfectly remove all of it, I think we got most of it, and anything still lingering is mostly just the adhesive or flattened down bits of the fiberglass stuck to the little pieces of adhesive, and that was good enough. My biggest worry was my health living in this thing, and everything left is just cosmetic at this point, and it's just gonna be covered up by the new camper build anyways. Look at this floor though. What a hot mess. I knew I couldn't dance around it any longer, and next up was finally cleaning this floor. We started out with chisels, but I whipped out my handy oscillating tool, and other than the insane vibrating and noise this thing produced, it sped up what would have been straight up a 10-hour process of cleaning this floor into about an hour. And oh baby, this floor was looking sparkling. After finally cleaning up all that gunk from the floor, walls, and ceiling, we had to wash down the entire interior of the van. The whole thing reeked of the chemical adhesive remover we sprayed all over the place in order to remove the insulation. And while it did have kind of a nice citrusy scent to it, that didn't change the headaches I was getting from driving this thing around. So we mopped this bad boy up, full ponchos and everything. We got the suds and went to town. You can see I covered up that rear HVAC system with a bag so it wouldn't get wet and kept staring that thing down because I knew I was going to have to confront that thing eventually. But for now, it actually came in handy because after getting the whole interior wet and cleaned up, I needed to dry this thing out so it wouldn't get all mildewy. And this rear HVAC actually was clutch for helping me do that. We blasted this thing and got the air blowing as I drove it around, and eventually it did get dried out. Finally, here we are in the present moment. There are a couple of things I did off camera, like fill in some chips in the front windshield of the van, and I took that ladder rack off the top of it. But other than that, the last and final thing I got done was that I finally got that rear HVAC system out of here. Funny enough, at first, I thought that thing was gonna be amazing. I was already set on installing both a heating and AC unit, and well, this thing did both and was already installed. So that was awesome. But it only runs when the engine is running. And for camping, that's literally just not gonna happen. So sadly, it needed to go. Getting it out was a hassle. This thing literally reconfigured the van itself. It was hooked directly into the van's coolant system and had Freon running through it. So I couldn't just remove this thing, which meant some of this. Money was needed. First, I contacted some van conversion company thinking that was the most accurate thing to my situation, and they didn't even have any availability. So then I took it to a shop that specializes in repairs for campers and general cargo vans, and they quoted me, get this, $1,300 just in labor to get this thing out of it. And that's not counting the parts they would need to order to reconfigure the van back to its factory setting. I said no to that and took it to a regular auto shop where they jerry-rigged a solution and only charged me about a quarter of the cost. So now what? Well, now that the HVAC system's out, I just need to plug some holes in the floor, paint over any raw exposed metal so it doesn't rust, and then finally, I can begin the actual van build. I've already ordered and began gathering a lot of materials for the build so that when I'm ready to start, I can just get going. But wow, it sure has been a journey so far. And we're just getting started. So to those who were wondering how it's been going, to that I say, it's been going. A bit of a slowdown in progress since the holidays, but come January, I'm trying to kick this thing into overdrive and get it done. Now, I've got to wrap this video up or else I won't make the upload in time, but if you guys are curious as to how my van's gonna be laid out and my general plans for it, let me know down in the comment section below. Maybe in the future, I can do a video explaining all that. But that's all the time we have for this segment of Will I Maintain My Mental Integrity Before This Van Gets the Best of Me? And so far, it's a tie. F in chat, like, subscribe, and thank you to my Saber.plus members for supporting me over at, you guessed it, Saber.plus. All right, I gotta use my old man bones, get up. There we go, nice. I'm just standing off screen so that I can let the end screen and the credits roll. But you don't know where I am. So just pretend I vanished from existence. Thanos snapped from reality.